Welcome to the K20 Center's Zoom into Your Career video series. These online career expos give students a way to explore many interesting careers and learn about their career options from volunteer professionals. Kelli Payne attended Oklahoma State University and went on to work in public sector roles. Combining her dedication for promoting the agricultural industry and her current position as president for the Oklahoma National Stockyards, she strives to share her personal story along with the wonderful heritage of agriculture's role in Oklahoma City's history.
A pleasure to be with you all this morning. Once again, I apologize for my technical difficulties. Some of that's just because I'm a farm kid and have never really embraced technology, but I'm going to do my best for you today. Thank you all for joining us this morning. As Alex said, my name is Kelli Payne. I'm the president of Oklahoma National Stockyards. We are outside, or I'm outside today. I had a plan to do kind of a virtual tour with you all and show you what the stockyards looks like, but we are fighting some rain this morning, which from a farmer perspective, we certainly need. But you may hear some cattle bawling from time to time in the background and some trucks rolling by. So the stockyards here in Oklahoma City, we're in our 111th year of service to farmers and ranchers from all across the United States and around the world. Our economic impact is very broad and it reaches a lot of people. Show of hands, everybody like hamburgers and steaks and all of that good stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, we keep America moving here by selling cattle on Mondays and Tuesdays. Last year, we sold about 436,000 head of cattle. So there's a lot going on here. I'm humbled to be a part of it. Like I said, I'm outside, so you're going to have some fences and stuff in the background there. But how I found my way in this position was a very different path. Whenever I grew up in a little town called Tabler, just outside of Chickasha, Oklahoma, and went to a little school that only went to the 8th grade. And when I graduated from 8th grade, there was 13 of us in the class, and thought that was a pretty big deal. And then I had a choice of high schools to attend. Whenever I was a kid, we raised cattle and sheep, and we dairied. So I had a pretty broad exposure to the farming industry. We planted alfalfa so that we could feed our livestock. And I was very involved in 4-H. I liked to show hogs, and I gave speeches and did demonstrations and just kind of took advantage of everything I could that was agriculture, but we were a very rural school. So when I had a choice of high schools to attend, and I went to Amber Pocasset, and that was another small school, but heavily rural, and stayed involved in FFA and kept showing hogs and tried to show a steer, but he was way too big for me. But anyway, I just stayed involved in a lot of things. We had in a small school, it was easy for us you were kind of involved in all of it. So I was the mascot for the basketball team and on the academic team, but there wasn't very many of us to choose from, so you felt pretty smart. But then I left and went to college. I had an opportunity to attend Oklahoma State University, which was thrilling to me. I'd worked really hard to get scholarships, and I wanted to be a veterinarian. I'm not a veterinarian. That didn't take me long to figure out I probably wasn't going to make the cut there. But when I was in college, I worked my way through. I had those scholarships, but I still had to work. So worked 40 to 60 hours a week, plus carried a full class load. But when I couldn't afford to go to college, once the scholarships ran out, I took advantage of internships. I had an opportunity to work in Ohio for a cattle company up there when I was I guess I would turn 21 when I was there. And then I came back and I was kind of burnt out on school. So I took another internship in Montana for the United States Department of Agriculture, doing some research for them. And when I came back from there, I decided I was ready to go back to college, and we had a new judging team that they put together to judge dairy cattle. So I was able to travel across the country and with my teammates and finally got some better grades. So I took a little bit different path through college. But I will just be honest with you. I got burned out again. I was pushing it too hard and working a lot. I liked work a lot more than I did class. So I came back down here to the stockyards where my dad had a company, and I was working for him. And one day it was really pretty. You've all experienced those really pretty winter days, like in January, where it's like in the 60s, and then a cold front comes through, and it is sleeting by like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So I was working out there in those elements, and my dad asked me to come in and sit down next to him. And he said, Kelli, I don't want you to be at the cell barn anymore. I need you to finish your education or go get a job where you can, get some other skills that aren't just agriculture. And my dad and I have we joke around a lot. And I said, well, what do you think I should do? And he jokingly said, why don't you go work for a congressman? So I was living in Stillwater, and I thought, well, I'll show him. So I guess I'd have probably been 23 or so about that time. And so there was a congressional district office up there. Congressman Watkins had an office. And so I went and took a resume in, and he called me. I'd have never dreamed I'd had that opportunity. So he hired me. He said, if you can handle that manure down there at the stockyards, you can handle it in Washington, D.C. So he was still a very dear friend of mine, but he opened some doors for me that I would have never had an opportunity to experience on my own. And one of those is economic development. So if you think about your communities that you're in, sometimes especially these rural communities, they're struggling, especially now. So he taught me how to put packages together to recruit businesses and how to help people. And it ignited a new passion in me where I loved agriculture. I loved promoting it, but I want to help people. I want to help communities. I want to help individuals. So I went to work for him, and then he retired. I started a nonprofit for him. I had never done a nonprofit, but I thought, well, here's another chance to learn something. And with that started a 15-year career for me, going and revitalizing downtowns with the state Main Street office. So I worked with Stillwater Main Street, Guthrie Main Street, but something kept pulling me back here to the stockyards. I had a call out of the blue one day where they asked, a guy was starting a new company to buy cattle, and he asked me to run it. And so I kind of put the nonprofit stuff on the back burner. And then another fella called and said, hey, I want you to come work for me at my cell barn. And I thought, what is going on here? But the doors just kept opening. And I don't mind telling you all, I'm 45. When I got the call to come and run Stockyard City Main Street, I was really enjoying my life. I was helping a family run a barn in Comanche, Oklahoma. And it was the hardest thing I ever could do to leave them, but I owed my path to God. He kept opening these doors. And so I came back up here to the stockyards, and there's a little district out in front where Langston's and Cattleman's and all that is. And that's the Main Street community. So I ran that, and then I got a call from the stockyards saying, we've created a position for you to be a liaison. So I didn't even know how to spell that, but I went and started promoting the yards. And a year later, they asked me to step into the general manager role and then president. So that's kind of a brief background on me. I've taken this position in a different level. I'm only the 6th president in 111 years. And it was really important to me being here in downtown Oklahoma City to preserve the authenticity of this area. Once again, helping farmers and ranchers get top dollar for their livestock. But I stay very involved in my community. I'm involved with Rotary. I'm on the board for the Main Street District out here. My significant other and I have started some scholarships for students at Oklahoma State University. I work a lot with the youth up there. I just believe in giving back. And so it's been a whirlwind. I've been in this position about 2.5 years. And probably the bulk of my time is spent now speaking with, we've had a very interesting 1.5 years. So I talk a lot with our elected officials. Yesterday, I had 2 different tour groups back to back now that folks were kind of starting to get out. One group was from the Midwest. They'd never been down here before. And then another group from Arkansas. So that was a lot of my day. I do not like being in the office at all, but they're going to lock me in the office this afternoon so that I can sign papers and things that I don't like to do. But probably the most thrilling part of it is being able to talk to groups. So tours and youth groups are really important to me. And I tell all of the younger folks that I visit with, I had a meeting in Stillwater at the university a few weeks back, and I shared with them that if you ever need anything during these challenging times, if you think that there's something that's interesting to you, and you think there's someone that I can help you make contact with, or if I can help anyone with a letter of recommendation, please reach out to me. I've been in your shoes, and I'm just so grateful that people have taken a chance on me practically all my life and have paved the way for me to go out and do great things. So At that, I will take any questions. I know I rocked through it pretty quick, but this place, I will say I oversee about 40 employees myself. On a Monday, there will be about 700 people working here, but my team is very dedicated. There are, this week, I think we had 300 trucks. So truck drivers, we interact with them a lot. I have plumbers on staff. I have mechanics on staff. I have a welding crew on staff. We have a staff that works directly with the cattle. And then we also have a cafe here. I mean, there's commerce taking place all the time. So any path that you could choose, we have people here that finance cattle. So banking is involved. We have a veterinarian on staff. It really encompasses all the different career paths you could possibly take. And I'd love at some point for one of you to call me, or all of you to call me and say, we want to be a part of this at some point in our lives. So I look forward to seeing all of you, hopefully at some point.
Awesome. Yeah, if any of our students have any questions, you can feel free to ask your teacher to come up and unmute your microphone. I guess I can just kick off a question while anyone's thinking about one. There's kind of the stigma within the ag field that you're just a rancher, you're just a farmer, like that's the only thing you can get into in the ag field. So what are some other, you kind of mentioned some of the jobs you work with, but what are some other jobs that students may not know about within the ag field?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. So it's a multitude. Obviously there's quite a few blue collar job, and I consider myself blue collar as well. I'm out in the muck with the rest of the team, but it's very broad. Finance is a big one. A lot of farmers and ranchers will use a finance company, like a Farm Credit comes to mind. National Livestock has a financing division. A lot of banks will have an ag division. So that's a big one. Ag law. I have a friend of mine she specializes in ag law. So it's very, very broad. Gosh, I'm just trying to think of live insurance. A lot of producers will insure their livestock. They insure farms, and there's a little different rating system with that versus insuring a home, like in an urban community. So it's anything you can think of that you would come into contact with on the urban side. There, you can usually add agriculture to it. So there's a job on the rural sector as well. And I know people that do, so economic development is another one. A lot of students that I went to school with or knew, through FFA and 4-H in high school went on to get an agribusiness degree so that they could go back and help their communities thrive. So they're working directly with them. Broadband is a big thing, and the challenge is different for rural than it is for the cities. So it's anything you can imagine. There's a place for it also with agriculture.
Awesome. Since our students right now are in 9th and 10th grade, what are some like clubs and stuff that they can kind of do now if they want to get interested in the ag field?
So something that we created here right before the pandemic was a shadow program. And I've had high school students and college students both come and spend a day with me just to see what we do. So you're kind of out in the muck with me. I've also had students shadow me like at a farm show where there's other vendors around. And so we'll take the time to go around and learn about sales, like for an equipment company. So if any of you are ever interested in a shadow program, please have your teachers reach out to me. And there's a lot of other firms that will do that. And I'm happy to, I'm actually putting a list together right now for some OSU students on other possible shadow opportunities within the industry. So some of that might be interesting as well. Something I missed speaking about, science is really, really critical to our industry. There's a lot of research that's done. So if you are, I know STEM is big in the class right now, in the classrooms right now. So take advantage of that. And also I'm an advisory member for Ag in the Classroom. And that is a great resource to learn more about the agriculture industry. It's very broad based. So there's horticulture, there is livestock, but there's been curriculum developed that teachers can implement in their classroom to help educate about a little deeper about agriculture. So if you if you have 4-H or FFA in your school, I owe a great deal of gratitude to 4-H and FFA instructors in my past, because they helped me see other opportunities in the ag fields, not just being a farmer or a rancher.
Yeah, it sounds great. So what is kind of the most rewarding part of your job?
This right here, this is the most rewarding. I'm very sentimental, and I've kept every thank you card I've ever received, and it's neat for me to look back at students that have heard, maybe heard me speak somewhere. I wish I could meet everyone and remember names, but occasionally I'll get a thank you or a thank you email where they went and maybe there was a spark lit somewhere, and they went on to do something really, really great in the ag field. So that's probably my favorite part, and rewarding is working with youth. There's no better group of people.
Awesome. So I know everyone wants to know about money. So what's kind of like some salary ranges students can kind of expect getting into the ag field?
So my position, this is the most I've ever, honestly, most pay I've ever received for a position. A salary for, and I'm probably on the low end of that, for like a sale barn or manager operator, auction operator. So it's going to be somewhere that is pretty broad span. So it'll be anywhere between 60 to maybe even probably 115,000. So that's on the high end of it. If you are in, I will take my average pay out here right now for my staff today, and this is without including meals and our workers' compensation insurance. Right now I'm paying $18.24 an hour to my staff, and they have right now unlimited overtime. So at 40 hours, it goes to time and a half, and they also have full insurance benefits. If you're in entry level, so ag lending is probably going to start 36 to 50,000. Veterinarians, I know some veterinarians that are making six figures. Our veterinarian works here 2 days a week, and we pay him by the head. So that's going to fluctuate. Some weeks it's, oh gosh, $8,000 for 2 days, but he's also paying for his staff. So it's kind of all over the board. Most of the truck drivers are paid by the mile. Right now it's $4.10 a mile, and they're going to keep about half of that in their pocket. So there's some lucrative things out here if you're in the research field, to where that STEM would really come in handy. Some of those researchers they'll be anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 a year plus. So there's some pretty lucrative positions. One thing about agriculture, though, folks that go into it have a pretty strong work ethic, so they're probably going to give more time to their job than the pay warrants. So an average week for me, if you include phone time, I'm probably anywhere from 90 to 100 hours a week. So it's grueling. A lot of times you're out in the elements too, but it's extremely rewarding. And I guess to me, I've never really looked at pay, because I've had, what I do is more about what I believe in. Sorry, I'm getting choked up a little bit. This is always kind of chokes me up when I talk about my position. Let me look. There's a question in the chat. Let me see if I can read it here.
Yeah, if you can't read it, I can read it out for you.
Let's see what we've got. What skills have you found vital to your job? That's a very good question. Public speaking has when I was liaison here and started going to trade shows, it's different to talk to one-on-one, and then tour groups started booking. So there have been situations I found myself in where I'm speaking to thousands of people at a time. My intern asked me, I've had my intern for 3 years. That was a new program that we started too. She asked me one day, she's a very good public speaker, much better than I am, but she said, do you ever get nervous? And I guess I don't, because I look at all of you as a friend whenever I'm speaking, but to a large group, but public speaking and probably another skill that's important. Work ethic is important. And that was just a skill that I guess I learned from being in agriculture from such a young age, and being able to think quickly. And sometimes there are things that happen, something breaks down, like especially on sale day, and you can't afford to have the downtime. So being able to think quickly and get through it, so some tenacity, and then being able to build personal relationships. I consider every one of my staff members as a team, but everyone is different. The last year and a half have been challenging in a number of ways, not just with supply chain disruptions and everything else we've gone through. Mental health is really important to me. And so we all reacted differently to the pandemic. And so it became really important for me to start individually checking on my team. We meet every month for lunch together and have camaraderie, but to be able to sit down and say, hey, how are you doing? You know, is everything okay? How can I help you? Sometimes we need to be a friend and be a good listener. So I think having compassion is important probably in any industry, especially with everything that we've been through lately.
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of need to be more of a leader than a manager within your role. So kind of speaking on that, within leadership skills and learning how to kind of talk to people, because obviously public speaking is usually most people's weakest point. Outside like the ag field, what are some things that students can do to kind of build those skills now?
That's another great question. So when I was I remember the first demonstration I ever gave in 4-H, and they wanted us to memorize, it was me and another team member giving the demonstration, and she had really worked hard and memorized everything for her portion of it. And I had not done my homework. I'll just be honest. I was 10 years old. I was very shy. You wouldn't know it now meeting me, but it left a lasting impression with me that if this other team member is doing their job, I've got to do my part too. So I had to get out of my own way and get that confidence with public speaking. If you're in a member, let's see, other ways if you don't have 4-H or FFA, if you have any kind of arts program in your school, participating in a play, anything with your church, anything that you do. This is something I tell a lot of youth, young leaders. Remember, if you have a hobby, which you probably all do, that's hopefully not on your cell phone, you are the expert at that. So if you have trained a puppy, if you're great at riding a bike, you're an expert on that. So you might try talking about, even just practicing at home, talk about what you're really, really good at that you know about. When I was 28 years old and went back to college, I was in a technical writing class, and they asked us to write about something that we knew from start to finish, and then we had to present on it. And that's probably where all this comes from, because I had never written down something that I know how to do all the way through. So I chose restoring an old wood boat. And the instructor asked me, she said, how do you know about that? And I said, because I've restored one. She had never had a student do that. Of course, I'm older than the instructor at this point, but it made me writing all of that down and showing myself that yes, I do know how to do this all the way through, and then presenting on it helped me to hone that skill. So you might just try this, just kind of an exercise, like you need any more homework. But if you wanted to learn about it and you don't have access to arts, that might be a good way. Community organization, I mentioned Rotary. Most communities will have a Lions or Kiwanis club. You might go to attend one of their meetings and listen to their speakers and catch them and ask them, hey, how did you develop your public speaking skill set? and maybe they might take you under their wing too.
Awesome. Well, do you have anything else that you'd like to leave the students with before we head out?
Whatever you decide to do your very, very best. But don't be afraid of making mistakes. I make more mistakes in a day than I have successes, and it's just part of learning as we go. But find some people, surround yourself with people that are very supportive. Find a mentor, maybe someone like I mentioned at your church or in a civic group. Networking is important. Well, I'm not a fan of cell phones. I don't know what I'd do if I lost this. I probably have 3,000 contacts in there, because I need to be, I can't do it all. So I've got to be able to have people that I know that I can count on. If I get a question that I don't have the answer to, I want to be able to call someone that can help me. So surround yourself with good people and network, and just don't be afraid of failure, and just go make it great. Every day is a new day for us to start over. People want you to succeed, and there's a lot of good folks out here in this world that are willing to help you. So, and once again, if there's anything I can do to help any of you students or the classrooms, please reach out to me. If you'd like a tour, I'm actually starting a new program where I'm going to schools and talking about the cattle industry. I'd love to come and visit with you in person. And the Ag in the Classroom group is really great about sending folks down too. So I'm here to help you. You're going to do great things. I just know it. And I hope our paths cross very, very soon.